Assalamualaikum and a very good morning to all our electronic workshop lecturer for these subjects which are listed down here. Today we going to present our topic that we have chosen for these electronic workshop assignments. But before that, let me introduce our group member, which is me, Muhammad Shafiq Zulfadli bin Rashid Aliska. And the second one is Muhammad Taufik Tela bin Suhaimi. The third one is Muhammad Shafizal Aikal bin Samsudin. And lastly, Muhammad Zul Haziq bin Norman. So our group member have chose this topic, which is safety precaution for soldering, because we found it much more exciting. So let us begin. So this is for the introduction part. Before I begin to explain more about the safety precautions for soldering, I will explain what is soldering. Soldering is a joining process used to join different types of metal together by melting solder. Solder is a metal alloy usually made of tin and lead, which is melted using a hard iron. The iron is heated to a temperature above 600 degrees Fahrenheit, which then cools to create a strong electrical bond. As you can see here, this is a soldering iron and this is the solder. The soldering iron here functions as it melts the solder to the components. That's how solder works. Okay, so let us move on. Alright, as you know, there's a lot of when doing solderings, and this is the first safety precaution for solderings, which is control of fumes. Soldering using rosin is only permitted in strictly controlled condition after discussion with the safety office, where there is no effective alternative. Fume extraction should be through an enclosed hood preferred, or tip extractions. As you can see the second picture, that is the hood that suck all the fumes when we are doing our solder. Bench top filter extract system may be used for rosin free soldering in well ventilated areas, large volume workspace, or with mechanical agents, which is means placement of this is important to performance if indoor hours. All extract systems should be tested at least annually and maintained. Keep a log of filter change or mark date on filter system. And do not solder if extract is not working properly and report immediately. That is why we need to maintain maintenance to our component, which is the solder, before we start before we start doing our work that related for soldering. This is one of the safety precautions for soldering, which is solder flux and cleaners, which is the first. We need to wear eye protection because the solder can split and we do not want lead in our eyes, right? And the second one is use rosin free and lead free solder wherever is possible. The third one is keep cleaning solvent is dispensing bottles, and the lastly, always wash your hands with soap and water after soldering, because it's much more important if we clean ourselves before start soldering something.
Hi, Assalamualaikum. My name is Muhammad Zul bin Norman. So today for safety precaution for soldering iron. First, a soldering iron is a hand tool used in soldering. It supplies heat to melt solder so that it can flow into the joint between two workpieces. Second, a soldering iron is composed of a heat metal tip and inserted handle. Next, heating is often achieved electrically by passing an electrical current supplied through an electrical cord or battery cable through a resistive heating element. Cordless iron can be heated by combustion of gas stored in small tank using a catalytic heater rather than a flame. Simple iron, less commonly used today than in the past, with simply a large copper bit on a handle head in a flame. So this is a type of solder. First, solder with temperature heat, and second, simple regulate solder iron. So for the electrical safety, first, do not use soldering iron that have obvious damage to body, cable or plug. So second, all soldering irons should have had electrical safety (PAT) testing within the last 12 months. If not, contact the one-site BOC representative. Third, keep the soldering station free of electrical cable to prevent damage from the heat taps. Fourth, use a grounded outlet and grounding prong if a short circuit is possibility. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Muhammad Syed and I will continue with lead exposure. What is lead? Lead shoulder is the one that encompasses lead and tin. It is for most electronic manufacturing process such as PCB assembly and assembly component mounting. The main advantage of using lead solder is forming strong joint with other metal like copper and aluminum. Next is what effect lead exposure. Exposure to a high level of lead may cause anemia, weakness, and kidney and brain damage. Very high lead exposure can cause death. Lead can cross the placental barrier, which means pregnant women who are exposed to lead also expose their unborn child. Lead can damage a developing baby's nervous system. And then rosin exposure. What is rosin? Rosin flag is used to facilitate soldering. It cleans and prevent metal oxidation, which allows solder to create strong, long-lasting mechanical and electrical bond. It also acts as a wetting agent, increase the flow of solder and the efficiency of the soldering process. What the effect of resin exposure? Exposure to resin can cause eye, throat and lung irritation, nosebleed and headaches. Next, repeated exposure can cause respiratory and skin sensitization, causing an aggravated asthma. And then also resin is a serious occupational hazard.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Muhammad Taufiqillah bin Sahimi. My number matric is B0821100518. Now I will continue this presentation with first aid for burns. Most burn from soldering are likely to be a minor and a treatment is simple. Now I will explain the simple treatment for burns. Firstly is immediately cool the affected area under gently running cool water. Keep the burn in the cool water for at least 5 minutes. If ice is ready available, this can be helpful too, but do not delay the initial cooling with a cool water. Next, do not apply any creams or ointments. Okay, lastly is seek a medical attention if the burn cover an area big than your hand. The burn will heal better without them. A dry dressing, such as a cleaning handkerchief, may be applied if you wish to protect the area from dirt. Okay, for the next slide, I will to explain about how to reduce the risk of burn. Firstly is always return your soldering iron to its stand immediately after use. Second, allow joint and component a minute or so to cool down before you touch them. Next, never touch the element or tip of a soldering iron unless you are certain it is cool. Okay, next I will present the fire prevention. First, work on a fireproof or fire-resistant surface, such as stucco, treated lumber, concrete, plaster, and masonry material like a brick or stone, a fire-resistant material like a drywall. Second, wear a fire-resistant coating, 100% cotton that can cover you up that can cover your arms and legs to prevent accident burn. The third, know where your nearest fire extinguisher is and how to use it. Okay, for the last slide from me, I will share about how to properly use a fire extinguisher. Why? This specific may vary depending on the model you own. Most fire extinguishers operate the same basic way. Stand at 6 to 8 feet away from the fire and remember to pass. P for pull, A for aim, S for squeeze, and another S for sweep. For P or pull the pin at the top, break the temper seal. For the aim the extinguisher low, point the nozzle at the base on the fire. Do not aim at the flame themselves. For the squeeze is the handle to release the extinguisher agent. For the lastly is sweep. Sweep the extinguisher from the side to side, continuing to aim at the base of the fire until it appears to be out. That's all from me. Thank you.
So, from the conclusion, first, the choice of soldering material has extreme importance in determining the properties of the solder joint. Second, both soldering and welding can cause a deterioration in properties if the wire is overheat or underheat. So lastly, combination of technique which offer optimal mechanical, physical and chemical properties or offer desired properties which are more favorable must be selected. Thank you.